What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I have a very exciting knife review slash knife overview to talk with you guys about. This is the Guardian Tactical Recon 35. This is an OTF, or out the front automatic knife, and I feel compelled to say right at the beginning of the video, this knife is just flat out illegal in a lot of places for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it's an automatic knife. That's something that some states and areas don't like. Also, it's over 3 inches. The blade is about 3.3, 3.4 inches. And in this case, it's also a dagger ground blade, which is another reason it might be illegal. Not every Recon 35 is dagger ground, but just to let you know, if you are interested in this knife, after the review or whenever, you do have to, of course, check, make sure you know your local knife laws, before you pick up something like this. Anyways, though, this is actually mine. It's very rare that I buy a knife for myself anymore because I have so much coming across my table all the time. You guys know, if you're new to my channel, I upload every single day, which means, the reason I'm able to do that is because I've got tons of stuff coming in all the time, hence all the unboxings. So with the acquisition of my recent Mini Crooked River, I realized that was going to, permanently kick my bug out of my pocket. And I had spent a bunch of money customizing this bug out to get it exactly what I wanted. So I decided, you know what, if I'm not going to carry the bug out, I'll sell it and get what I really want, which is I live in Kansas. I wanted a dedicated EDC OTF, and I had been very, very intrigued by the Recon 35 for a long time, but they were unavailable up until very recently. And so I took the opportunity, sold my custom bug out, and purchased this. And I have a lot to say about it. Whether you're new to my channel, or you've been around for a long time, I do have Patreon. So if you'd like to get your hands on one of these cool stickers and help support my channel at the same time, just follow the link down in the description and have a look around. I also have once a week Patreon exclusive content available to everybody who joins any tier, even the $1 tier. So if that sounds good to you, that, like I said, the support would absolutely mean the world to me. Anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length of the Recon 35 is, they list it as 7.75, but it is clearly longer than that. It's like 7.85, almost 8 inches. Not quite 8 inches, it's almost there, right? How about blade length? We didn't do that, totally ignored it. From tip to scale, you're looking at exactly, my measure, it's listed as 3.3, 3.4, but it's like almost exactly 3.5. Between 3.4 and 3.5, the actual cutting edge is probably about 3.25. So that's why. Even by the measurements that I saw online, I was like, that seems like a really good size, especially after having handled the UTX 85 and realizing that it was bigger than I thought. So yeah, fantastic measurements. This is the smaller one, by the way. There is a Recon 40, which is very large. It's about the size of a combat Truidon, which I do have, and I'm going to do a comparison here in a moment. Let's do some regular folding knife comparisons. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. The Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall. So you can see there what I mean when I say it's very close to 8 inches. Very, very, very close. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Spyderco Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Let's do some size comparisons with other OTFs, because I have a few here. Here it is up against the Microtech Combat Truidon. This is roughly the exact same size of its bigger brother, the Recon 40. So for any of you who are wondering, should I go with the 40 or should I go with the 35? So butt to butt, absolutely butt to butt. Here you go. This is the size. Now remember, we're at a slight angle here, but this is essentially the difference in size between the Recon 35 and the Recon 40. How about up against the Benchmade Infidel? Benchmade Infidel, I believe, coming in at like 9 inches on the dot. I think the Combat Truidon, by the way, is like 9.25. How about the UTX 85? Spoiler alert, there's going to be a versus video between these two. I'll show you what I mean about how the angle kind of changes how close these are. So there you go. UTX 85 and the Guardian Tactical Recon. Similar, but the Recon is both longer and taller. I am going to be doing a battle video between these two because I think a lot of people would be curious, considering they're very close in price, very close in size. Anyways, how's the action on this? Well, most people know by now that the big, their claim to fame, Guardian Tactical, and I had never even heard of them. Apparently they do up until like when the first run of these came out. What was it, like a year ago or longer than that? I don't know. I had never heard of them, and their claim to fame was that they had built like the smoothest, or at least people were saying that this was like the smoothest OTF. You guys watched me unbox this and use it. In my very first deployment, I freaked out and I was like, oh my gosh, it's awesome. There is still like, some people I'm sure are wondering like, is it like too easy to push? No, it still takes like a child would not be able to pick this up. A small child would not be able to pick this up and accidentally deploy it. Also, bumping into something in your pocket would also not make it unintentionally deploy. They've got a non-magnetic steel plate underneath here. On a normal OTF, it's just the steel or sometimes titanium on anodized aluminum interaction, and that creates a little bit excess friction, and on especially on the case of that. But let's use this guy, right? Not quite as much pressure. This is a little more gritty, feels a little bit more clunky, and on top of that, this is a little more bitey, right? So you're fighting it a little more, and it's also more friction, and the button's got a little more bite to it. I'm not saying it's bad, but this is much more rounded. You're able to get traction because of the shape, right? It's non-symmetrical. So this area right here, when you're pushing up, plenty of room to gain traction, and then because it's raised right here, pulling backwards is very easy. It's nice and rounded. I can do this all day and my fingers do not get tired. Underneath the button are 3 ceramic ball bearings, which makes that so smooth. The reason that this plate apparently is non-magnetic is so that they can put a steel plate in there, but it doesn't attract like metallic debris over time. That's awesome, right? Like arguably one of the most technologically advanced knives is the OTF. And Guardian Tactical managed to take it a step further by doing that. The chassis and the internal parts also make it to where the blade does not rub at all, in and out, right? Friction over time can cause deployment issues. And other than the Harkins, it's the Hawk, the G&G Hawk Deadlock, is that what it is? Other than that one, which is in a league of its own, all OTFs have a little bit of play and a little bit of friction coming in and out of the handle. I tend to enjoy the performance of Microtechs over Benchmades, but even they have a little bit of rub, a little bit. This guy, no, it doesn't. And that's really, really cool. I'm sure people want to know, they're like, how's the play? If you were to compare the play in a Benchmade Infidel versus the play in the Guardian Tactical and the play in a Microtech, right? So for anybody who doesn't know, there's always a little bit of wiggle in an OTF. There just is. That's part of it. Unless it's the G&G Deadlock, right? Now, if you're watching this video 5 years from now and somebody has revolutionized how OTFs work and how they do that, the price, it doesn't cost a lot of money, then maybe OTFs in the future won't wiggle, right? But as far as right now, we're just starting out January 2020. High-end production OTFs, they wiggle a little bit. They don't wiggle nearly as much as some of the low-end stuff, right? Some of your junk, like your hyper junk OTFs, or some of your better budget OTFs like the Lightning. Like I consider, if you're on a budget and you want an OTF, get a Lightning. Don't get the brands that are based on animals. One is a bird and one is a reptile. Let's steer clear of those. Those are junk. But the Lightning OTF is a good one. But all those low end ones, they rattle like crazy. They play. There's so much play. There's nowhere near the same amount of play. The Benchmade Infidel, now this version is the old Law Enforcement and Military Elite Edition, but I've checked with my local shop and compared it with a brand new one. They all have, a decent amount of play. This is the most play, right? Still functional, it's fine, it's just got the most play. Between these two, and I guess I'll put the Combat Truidon in here. Truthfully, the one that has the least play of any of them is my Combat Troodon, but it does have a little. It's just like extremely minimal. There's almost no play in that. This one's got a little tiny bit more, right? A little tiny bit more. And then this one has about the same as the UTX-85. So the UTX-85 and the Guardian Tactical have about the same amount of play, but it's extremely minimal, right? This is almost nothing. This is minimal. There's a small difference between this and these two. And then there's quite a bit. There's a jump in the amount of play when you go to the Benchmade Infidel. So yeah, there's very minimal play. It feels very solid. I don't have an issue with that. I'm going to move these other OTFs off the table so we can get back to it because we are 10 minutes in. So anyways, the action's incredible. This thing has yet to fail, and I have been carrying this. I have been. In fact, I've actually dropped it once. It's already got a battle scar. Not a big one. Where is it? Right there. Dropped it in the bathroom. No big deal. And I think actually the pocket clip's got a little, see if the pocket clip's got some wear. Yeah, I bumped into some stuff with the pocket clip, but it's very new. I fully plan to continue to use this. That was the idea behind this knife. I really wanted an OTF that was great for EDC. But anyways, these knives come in a variety of different colors, different materials. The standard version, which is what you're seeing here, comes in your choice of, I believe, OD green, red, and blue aluminum. I've also seen some special edition ones come in a brass front scale. They also have an option for a carbon fiber inlay. I think I've seen gray, and I would imagine just like Microtech, you're going to see a variety of different colors and things like that. As far as blade shapes go, they have a really interesting compound ground tanto. You have a hollow ground front edge on the tanto and then a flat grind on the standard. Then they have a drop point, and then they have this double edge. I opted for the double edge because if I'm going to EDC and OTF, I mean, daggers are legal in Kansas. Automatic knives are legal in Kansas in any length. So that's what I'm going to carry, right? If I can have two edges, that's what I want. The disadvantage is, excuse me, you can't put your thumb up here. You can't bear down on the knife like that. Steel, I've seen LMAX and S35VN, and I believe when they first came out, they were in CPM 154. I don't know if they still offer it in CPM 154, but truthfully, I'd take it in any of those steels. CPM 154 is, I've actually listed it as my very favorite user steel of all time, but I also love LMAX and I also love S35VN. All of these steels are reasonably easy to sharp, CPM 154 being the easiest. They're all reasonably stainless. I think LMAX is the most stainless, and they're all reasonably tough. I believe S35VN is the toughest. So you can see this multi-directional teeter-totter that I'm talking about. They're all right there. All good choices, right? Doesn't really matter which one I end up with. They come in a variety of finishes. This is their stonewash finish. Not quite as light as the stonewash finish as something you might see on the Spyderco Para 3 or the stonewash finish on a Microtech. It's much more reflective. I understand we have a satin flat right here, but the actual tumbled parts of this Hellhound blade are not quite as subdued as on the Guardian Tactical. I don't really care. This concrete sort of finish that's on their stonewashing is fine. You can also get black washed. You can get DLC. I don't know that they offer a satin. I've seen some weird custom Reese Whelan ground blades available on these, but I mean, you can tell I did a ton of research before I bought this, but lots of different stuff. Something that I thought was really impressive with this blade is, and it's something that I've noticed on other double ground or dagger ground OTF knives or dagger ground blades in general. I think it's fairly difficult, even though these are machine made, to get them perfectly symmetrical. And I mean getting that line to go right down the middle. I have seen lots of knives that are ground this way where the line is not perfect, and this blade is perfect. It's non-symmetrical down here because of the shape of the handle. That's intentional. But as far as the blade, like from right here, it's absolutely perfect. It's also very handsome the way that they did the fuller. This makes me think of a broadsword, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. Here's an example of a blade that is not aesthetically pleasing. Those right there. I don't like those. So thank you, Guardian Tactical, for doing that. Now, the problem with this fuller is that if you're cutting stuff that's got heavy adhesive on it or liquid or debris or whatever, it can get trapped in that fuller and then sucked down into the handle. So be cognizant of what you're cutting. because anything that gets trapped on the inside of the handle technically could cause a failure. Speaking of failures, that is the case. Let me find something that I can fire into. Priority box. As is the case with all OTFs, I still feel compelled to do this. If you fire this directly into a surface, it will derail. That's a safety feature. Knives, OTF knives do not fire directly into organic or inorganic material. That's not how they're designed. Just pull it back out, lock it. It's good to go. Fantastic. I have zero qualms with the blade. The blade is perfect. The edge is ground great. It's not, as you can imagine, this is about 145 thousandths thick, which I'll do for you guys real quick. We haven't weighed it either yet. Let's do that. Blade stock thickness on this guy, well, it's mine saying 140, so between 100 and 145, depending on what website you go to. And then it's actually hollow ground out here. So it gets pretty thin behind the edge, but it's not going to be the most performance-oriented slicey blade. This is it's just a sharp piece of metal that comes out of a handle, and it's put together extremely well. I'm over here with my iPad in my hand, realizing that it is not my scale. Okay, let's clear this out real quick. Sorry, this is going to be a long review. Weight on this guy. Remember, 6061 T6 aluminum and this Elmax dagger ground blade. 3.56 ounces. Almost an ounce an inch on the blade to weight ratio. That's fantastic. This is essentially just a little rectangle. Now, it is a fairly thick rectangle. We didn't actually do thickness comparison. So here it is, compared up against the UTX 85, about the same thickness. Up against the Combat Trudon, which is, it's actually about the same. I think the Combat Trudon's a little fatter in the body, though. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Yeah, it's ever so slightly thicker. Now, here's where I love it, though. Carry profile. It's just nothing. It's just a little rectangle. It's awesome. I love that. And it's a 3.5 ounce rectangle that just carries beautifully. Oh God, it's so awesome. I really enjoy simple aesthetics, and the Guardian Tactical Recon really had that. If you guys want to know what I think the most aesthetically pleasing OTFs out there are, there's two of them. I talked with Jeff about this. The new Microtech Dirac and Dirac Delta are beautiful, and then the Recon 35 and Recon 40 in their dagger blades. Not a big fan of their I'm not as much a fan as of their Tantor, their drop point, as I am the dagger ground blade. But as far as an aesthetically pleasing OTF goes, oh boy, this Recon 35 and those Diracs are just beautiful. I love that. I love how they did the handles here. Everything's nicely rounded off. There are no sharp edges anywhere. Just a couple little traction lines. In practice, using this knife when I'm cutting over a package, I appreciate where they have those lines, whether I'm holding it here or here. It's just nice. The difference between like the Combat Trudon and the UTX 85 is that there's this big curvature right here that's meant for both fingers. And there's some traction lines up there and you can lock in, right? Same thing here. It's nice, it's ergonomic, but this actually has two separated areas. Now it doesn't like control exactly where I put my hand, but it just allows me that part where I can rest there, where when I'm pushing up on this switch, my finger is holding on to this ridge right here where it's clearly meant to be. And then same thing when I'm pulling back. My finger just locks in nicely right there, and it feels very natural and very organic while still giving me freedom. I can move back here and still get a full grip, right? Or I can move up here and there's still plenty of handle room. I wear an XL glove, and this isn't a gigantic OTF, but it still fills the hand. A lot of you guys are probably wanting to know, how does it compare with the Lightning OTF, right? Let's say you have a Lightning and you're like, I want to buy a nicer OTF. It's almost exactly the same size as the Lightning. The Lightning's 8 inches. This is 7.85, 7.9 inches. It's very, very close. In terms of cutting edge, it's almost exactly the same. The nice thing is it weighs a little bit less. So yeah, and it's obviously higher quality with more premium material. So if you like the Lightning, if you like the size of the Lightning, you're going to like the size of the Guardian Tactical Recon. Here's something that kind of stinks. I'm going to get out my WIA bit selector and driver. They're down in the description. You can get these as well as lots of the other awesome high-end American production knives that I show on my channel every day, and budget knives. It's all categorized down there. So whatever your itch is, feel free to scratch it and check out those links. I'm 100% sure that these are T6. These body screws are T6. And yeah, T6. Actually, are they T7? No way. There's no way. Maybe they are. This is a T7. There we go. So let's try it here. Nope. T6 body screws. I don't like it. I really wish they were T8. I can't see myself needing to get inside this super often. By the way, if you guys want to know what you should be spraying inside here to clean it out and lubricate it, REM oil is probably the best thing. The Teflon-based REM oil is, I believe, what Microtech uses in their factory. That's a fantastic spray to use for OTFs. It's very healthy for it. But I can't see myself needing to get in here often unless something happens and the blade won't deploy or there's something lodged in there. If I do, I'm going to have to be extra careful to make sure not strip my heads or these screws. Fortunately, these do have a good warranty and they're made in the United States, so getting extra screws shouldn't be that big of a problem. There's a nice unobtrusive lanyard loop back here. You're really going to have to squeeze 550 through there to get it in there, but that's fine. It doesn't have that much on there. Something I kind of like is it just doesn't have a glass breaker like the UTX 85 or the Comet TrueDot. Now, some people really need to have a glass breaker on their OTF. I don't. So I don't care that it's not there. I think it looks better without it. So I'm happy with that. The pocket clip is excellent. It's excellent. It carries about right here. There's hardly anything sticking up. It does have a bill, which actually the reason that I dropped it, this is why I don't like bill pocket clips and why I prefer clips like this. I was wearing a long shirt. I accidentally bought a 2XL. I wore an XL shirt. I accidentally bought a 2XL. I was like, whatever, it's a dress shirt. I'll just tuck it into my pants. And I had it untucked as I was home, and I had this knife in my pocket, and my shirt tail somehow caught it and got lodged underneath this area right here. And then I raised my hands up in the air, and my shirt lifted it out of my pocket, and it fell down onto the floor. No big deal. It was totally fine. It just left that tiny little mark. But that's why I don't like pocket clips like this. I want it to just sweep down and just up just a little bit. Here's a good example. Just like that. There's just less room to snag because it doesn't have this final hook right there. But no big deal. It still carries just fine. It carries just right there. Great. I love the pocket clip. No issue. So yeah, overall, my only real complaints. Oh yeah. This is just a personal thing. Guardian Tactical's font. Some people are going to like it. Some people aren't. To me, it looks a little Halloween-y. But okay, whatever. It's not really that big of a deal. They have a Halloween font. Whatever. So really the only thing that I truthfully can complain about are the T6 screws, because my situation with the pocket clip was an anomaly, and there are plenty of pocket clips that are shaped like that, and they're just fine. On top of that, as far as I know, Guardian Tactical does have a good warranty, and they can get parts to you from the United States. So I think that's just fine. This seems to be extremely durable, extremely well made. It absolutely has the smoothest action of any OTF that I've ever handled. There's minimal play in the blade. It's beautiful from an aesthetic point of view. It's a straightforward tool, and I appreciate that. On top of that, you guys are going to get a, or actually no, see, all these are pre-recorded. So you guys actually saw, however long ago, my, what's so great about OTF knives video. This is just like the best. It's such a convenient tool. OTFs in general are incredibly convenient. And amidst all of the OTFs that I've handled, and I've handled many that you guys have not seen on this channel before I started the channel, this is just my favorite OTF that exists. It's not like head and shoulders over a Microtech. If you want to go for a Microtech, go for a Microtech. They're great. But this is my favorite OTF. As for EDC that exists. Not everybody's going to be able to EDC an OTF, but this is just perfect. And here's the best part about this, the price. The base price on these are about $270. Now that's going to be a lot of money for a lot of people, and that's completely understandable. But as far as US, like high-end US OTFs go, that's excellent. That's roughly the same price as your Microtech Ultratechs. I think your Diracs are right in there. A lot of your other competitive, like your Benchmade's got is it the Phaeton? I don't know what Benchmade's newest thing is, but I've handled those, and I have not handled a Dirac. If there was one change, if there's one thing that I truthfully enjoy more on the die rack and honestly more on the Benchmade Infidel than I do on this, is the position of the switch. And it's because of where my hands are naturally lying when I pull an OTF in my pocket. My finger's here, and I pull, and my thumb is already in position to fire this. When I pull a knife like this, or the Combat Troodon, or the UTX from my pocket, I'm pulling, then I have to readjust and then fire. It's almost trivial, the additional movements I have to make to deploy the knife. But if they had made this like perfectly symmetrical and they had put the button right here, I just died. I'm very interested to see, you know, the thing with the die rack is the reason that I chose this and I didn't go with a die rack is because the little die rack is too small for me, and the big one is, number one, hard to find, and I think a little bit too big for EDC. If they had made the die rack about the same length as this, or within half an inch on the larger side, I wouldn't want to go smaller, but on the larger side, I might have gone with the die rack because the switch is right there. But I'm really happy that I went with this. And as of this day, this is my very favorite OTF that exists, and I cannot recommend it enough. This is an excellent product, and it has already served me well, and I'm sure it will continue to serve me well. So I'll do a long-term report on this after I've been carrying it for a while. But this is, for the last like 2 weeks, has been like the only thing in my pocket. Now I'll go back and continue to carry the other manual knives that are in my rotation, but this thing has just dominated my pockets, and I really, really like it. So anyways, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's review. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.